You cannot have muscle protein synthesis without muscle protein breakdown occurring first. You've got to break down the muscle before new muscle can synthesize. Give creation time, to work. Give creation time to work. Be persistent, be patient. You'll get results in your life. I'm going to talk to you today about muscle protein synthesis. And more importantly, I'm going to talk to you about what muscle protein synthesis can teach you about persistence and patience, and how you can use that and apply it in the rest of your life to achieve the outcomes that you want to achieve. This is Mark Johnson, your fitness ambassador from Bounce Pep, the youngest son of Bill Johnson. As always, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. That helps spread the message out to the rest of the world. I will really appreciate that. Let's jump right into this. We're going to answer the very simple question today. What is muscle protein synthesis? Okay. I'm going to give you 8 points about muscle protein synthesis that you need to understand. The first one is this. Muscle protein synthesis simply creates new muscle proteins and it repairs damaged ones. That's the very first point. Now, in order to understand this, you need to understand what synthesis is in the first place. I know it's a word that we hear a lot, but basically synthesizing is simply, combining some elements or some chemicals to form like a compound, to form something bigger. So when synthesis occurs, that's all that it means. So in this case, we're talking about amino acids, combining to create muscle proteins. So that is essentially what muscle protein synthesis is. Again, it creates new muscle and it repairs damaged muscle. Okay, point number 2. Okay, muscle protein breakdown is the flip side of muscle protein synthesis. Now, you cannot have muscle protein synthesis without muscle protein breakdown occurring first. You've got to break down the muscle before new muscle can synthesize. So, specifically speaking, muscle protein breakdown is the degradation of muscle proteins into the amino acids that they are made of. Okay. Point number 3. The difference between muscle protein breakdown and muscle protein synthesis is called your net muscle protein balance. This is abbreviated NBAL. Okay, net muscle protein balance. So that brings us to point number 4. If your muscle protein breakdown and your muscle protein synthesis are equal to one another, then you are in a state of homeostasis, which simply means that you are neither losing nor gaining any muscle. You're just static, basically. If your net muscle protein balance is positive, it means that you're building more muscle. You're getting bigger and stronger. Whoopee. Okay. If it's negative, it means that you are losing muscle mass. Okay. You're losing muscle mass if your net muscle protein balance is negative. Okay. Point number 5. Low weight is not going to stimulate muscle protein synthesis because it doesn't break muscles down in the first place. Okay, so think about it like trying to tear down a skyscraper, right? A big, huge skyscraper. Okay, so think of your muscles as a huge skyscraper. Well, you don't walk up to a skyscraper with a baseball bat and just start swinging. I mean, it's like that's not going to get the job done. You've got to come in with a bulldozer. You've got to knock that thing down with a bulldozer. You got to go heavy on it, right? So your muscles work the same way. You've got to train with enough intensity, okay? There has to be enough of a struggle involved for you to actually break down the muscles in the first place. And only then can you have muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis is a metabolic process that will occur naturally if you break down your muscles. Okay. Now, with that said, let's move on to point number 6. And that is simply that you can apply the principles of progressive overload, which I call VIDIF. That is volume, density, intensity, and frequency. Okay. Volume is the number of reps and sets you're doing. Okay. Density is the length of the rest periods that you're doing. So if you want to make it more dense, you reduce the length or the duration of your rest periods. Okay. Then you have intensity. That is how much weight you're working with. If you increase the weight or if you increase time under tension, you are automatically going to increase intensity. And finally, we have frequency. Frequency is how frequently you are working out. Whether it's 3 times a week or 6 times a week or 2 times a day, that's what frequency is. Okay, so you can manipulate all those variables of progressive overload to create a more intense workout. And when you do that, you're going to break down your muscles, and then that's going to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Point number 7, okay? Your workout sensitizes your muscles to amino acids. In other words, working out will make your muscle fibers more receptive to amino acids. And so what it means is that when you eat some kind of a protein after you work out, your muscles are going to be very, very receptive to that protein. The point here is that you want to make sure that you're eating, with it. Like I typically eat within an hour of working out, I'll get some protein. But even for the next 24 hours after you work out, generally speaking, your muscles are going to be very, very receptive to, protein intake. And so when you're bringing in protein into your body, then your muscles are going to use that. It's going to synthesize those amino acids that it gets, and it's going to build and repair, your muscles. That's exactly what you want to happen. Okay. You want to be building, repairing muscles. Now, with that said, generally speaking, now you talk to different people and you'll get a slightly different, recommendation. But what I would say is about 0.3 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight, it's like would be something that you should try to get after you work out. Now, me personally, I've said this before, I live in Japan and tofu is just readily available. It's just everywhere because people eat a lot of tofu in Japan. And one of the great things about tofu is it's very inexpensive and you don't have to really prepare it. You just take it out of the package. I normally put some soy sauce on it, and that just gives it a little bit of flavor. And I just eat it just like that. It's just that simple. But of course, other great sources of protein, would be fish and beef and chicken, basically meat, poultry, and seafood. Those are other great sources. Beans, very, very good sources of protein. Make sure also that you're getting some rest, because the rest is actually when your muscles grow, okay? And that actually brings me to the 8th point. There's something called hyperemia, okay? Hyperemia is what is colloquially known as the pump. The pump is something different than muscle protein synthesis. So do not confuse the two. The pump is simply when you go to the gym and you're working out and you got a lot of blood flowing to the muscle group that you're working out. So if you're working out arms, you've got blood flowing there, and your arms will literally get like slightly bigger while you're working out. Or if it's your chest or your back, whatever, or your legs, whatever you're working out, whichever muscle group is receiving all of that extra blood flow will actually expand a little bit during your workout. But it's all temporary. So that is called the pump. That's hyperemia. That is not to be confused with muscle protein synthesis, okay? Muscle protein synthesis is actually building new muscle. It's not a temporary pump. So those are the 8 things that I want you to know about muscle protein synthesis. Let's get to the bigger point. What in the world does this have to do with persistence and patience? Well, let me tell you, we live in a world now where everything is convenient. And in general, we like convenience and it's a net plus. But one of the reasons that you need to work out is because you need something to remind you that not everything is instantaneous, okay? You can't get instant results all the time in every regard. It just doesn't work that way. And so when you're training, this is going to be a reminder that there are some things in life that you have got to be persistent and patient with. Now, muscle protein synthesis takes time. Okay. You don't work out one day like you got 20 or 19-inch arms one day and literally next day they've grown to 20 inches. That's not the way it works. It's a process that takes time. And so you've got to be persistent. Okay. You've got to be persistent. And then you got to be patient. You've got to give it time. Persistence and patience. Be persistent, be patient, give it time. And over time, you will see the results. A lot of things in your life work like this. Whether we like it or not, it's the truth. Not everything can be instantaneous. A lot of times, the things that have the biggest payoffs require us to be persistent and patient. Okay? Persistent and patient. You keep working at it. Keep working at it. Keep working at it. You have to have the faith. You have to have the knowledge and the faith that the results will come, but it won't be instant. You have to be patient. Okay? Muscle protein synthesis teaches you this. Now, I want you to remember something about creation versus building. Or I'm sorry, actually, creation and building are the same thing. Creation versus destruction is what I want to say. It always takes you a lot longer to build something than to destroy it. Okay? Go back to muscle protein synthesis. You know, it's a slow process, but if you keep doing it, if you keep building, you'll start to see the results. Creation is much, much slower than destruction. We go back to the example about the skyscraper. Well, it may take you a year to build a skyscraper, and you can implode the thing in 60 seconds. Literally, a skyscraper that took you a year to build can be imploded to the ground into a pile of rubble and ashes in a minute. Okay, so you have to understand, give creation time, to work. Give creation time to work. Be persistent, be patient. You'll get results in your life. With that said, this has been Mark Johnson, your fitness ambassador from Bounce Pep, youngest son of Bill Johnson. Go to Bounce Pep, subscribe to Pep Talk, which is our newsletter. I want you to be getting that every week. It's just going to give you some tips and everything. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. You all have a great day. It was fun talking to you. See you next time.